So, notes on compound inequalities, guys. Up here you see at the top, you do have to understand that a compound inequality is just two inequalities in one problem. And to satisfy the inequalities we've looked at so far, a number only has to meet one condition. But with the compound inequalities, it may have to meet two conditions, or there may be two conditions and it only needs to meet one of them, right? Like here, the compound inequality in the first one here would have to meet both the criteria being greater than 3 and less than 7, so I wrote 4 here. The next one could be either or. It could be either less than 3, so maybe it could be 2, but it can be greater than 7, so maybe it could be 8 also. So the difference between and or kind of makes sense. If it says and, it can meet both criteria. If it says or, it should be because it can't meet both criteria. This right here is just a quick little look at when you have a compound inequality. Basically have two parts. If you have to graph it, you'd have to graph both parts on the same number line. So what I did here was I graphed the x is greater than or equal to 5. Remember, shaded circle, right? It's not just greater than 5, it's greater than or equal, so shaded in. Numbers that are greater than are on the right. This here is the graph of x is less than 9, and when you put them together, you end up with this here on bottom. So again, this is just a method for showing you how to graph a compound inequality by graphing the separate pieces, then putting them together. Same thing on this one. You can take both parts. X is less than -2. X is greater than or equal to 1. You can graph them separate number lines or on separate number lines. And then you can graph them on the same number line. And eventually we just want to graph them on the same number line. So that's that. And then I went ahead and started these, so I'll just tell you what I did. On the first one, I have it written as a compound inequality, so I split it up. The way I split up a compound inequality is I take the middle of the inequality with the left side, and that's one of my inequalities. And then I take the middle of the inequality with the right side. Remember, the middle is what's between the two inequality symbols. So on the left side, -3 is less than x. I just flipped it around to make it, x on the left, -3 on the right. So x is greater than -3. If you read this backwards, that's what it was originally. X is greater than -3. And then the right side, x is less than or equal to 4. And then I just graphed both on the number line, right? If x is greater than -3, it's open circle, right? It's not equal. Numbers that are greater are on the right. And then x is less than or equal, right, to 4, so shaded in because it can equal 4, and then less than points left. So in this one, the numbers have to be, between -3 and 4, let's say. Then I graph this one. This one has the word or. The word or kind of gives away that it is going to be two completely separate parts that don't overlap. So x is less than 1, and or x can also be less than 6. And now I'm going to move along to this one, guys. I always like to put 0 in here. My first part of the compound inequality is x is less than or equal to -7. So put -7 on the left of 0. Remember, less than or equal should be a shaded circle, and the numbers that are less than are on the left, so that means shade or point to the left. Now x is greater than 2, so 2 should be on the right of 0. Greater than 2 means open circle, right? Don't shade it if it can't equal 2, and then all the numbers greater than 2 are on the right side of 2. So there's that one. There's the graph of that one. And then this next one here is, again, splitting it up, right, so you can see it done. So I'm going to take the middle part. I know the middle is the part with the part that's between the two inequality symbols. So take the left side with the middle, and since the variable's on the right, I would flip the whole thing and put the variable on the left. So this one technically is saying x is greater than or equal to -8. I'll go ahead and put 0 in here. And then the other side of this compound inequality, right, the second inequality I can get from this compound inequality is x is less than or equal So I can graph both these guys at -5, right? For this one, less than or equal means shaded circle because it's equal. Less than should point left. And I already kind of have a clue that -8 is going to overlap with that, so I'm leaving some space for that. So now at -8, x is greater than or equal to -8. Greater than or equal means, right, if it can equal 8, you shade it in. The numbers that are greater than are on the right, so point right. And you can see this graph is actually the two circles at the two given numbers, and then it's only where they overlap. X can only be the numbers where they overlap between 5 and -8. X can be -5, -8, or anything in between, -5.3, -7.2, and so on. So for these problems here, I'm just going to take the two separate parts and write them out separately. So basically it's saying like x is, that could be added in, x is all real numbers that are greater than -2, so x is greater than -2, and x is also numbers that are less than 6. So I can just write it like that. If you want to put it together as a compound inequality, you can do that. You can put the lesser number on the left, the greater number on the right, variable in the middle, and then make sure your symbol is consistent with what it was originally. So right here, x was always greater than -2, so the way you would have to write that backwards would be like that. Think of it as either flipping the whole inequality, so you don't forget to flip the symbol. You can also think of it as, look at this symbol, it's pointing, right? The point is here. It's pointing at -2. It should stay pointing at -2. And then over here, x is less than 6, same thing. Make sure the symbol stays pointing at x because it was originally pointing at x. So you could do that. You could take the two parts and put them together as one inequality if it's using the word and. It wouldn't make as much sense if it had the word or in it. So anyhow, I'm going to put 0 in there. I'm going to go ahead and put -2 in there and 6. And at -2, I should have an open circle, right? Can't equal -2. All the numbers that are greater than -2 are on the right. And then x is less than 6. So again, open circle because it can't equal 6. All the numbers that are less than 6 are on the left of 6. So there you go. There's your graph for that one. And I'm going to keep moving along here, guys. Next one, example 2, write a compound inequality that represents the phrase, graph the solution. So your compound inequality can simply be, like I said, two separate parts, and this could say x is, right? X is all real numbers that are less than 0 or greater than or equal to 5. So again, x is less than 0, or, right, I hear this word or, x is also greater than or equal to 5. So there's that. So in this one, it wouldn't make sense to combine it. Normally you won't combine them like this. Normally you're not going to do that if it has the word or. So anyhow, graphing it, 0, x is less than 0, but x is also greater than or equal to 5. So at 0, I should have an open circle. Numbers that are less than 0 are on the left. At 5, I should have a shaded circle. And the numbers that are greater than 5 are on the right, so this should point to the right. So again, it's write the compound inequalities, this part, right? And up here, you could have boxed either thing, right? You could have boxed the first thing or the second thing or both. And then your part of your answer is also your graph, so I'm just going to box both things. Next one, these could easily just say x is all real numbers that are greater than or equal, right? So x is all real numbers that are greater than or equal to -4 and less than 6. So x is also less than 6. If you want to put that together, one way to do it is lesser number on the left, greater number on the right, variable in the middle. Symbol should stay pointing at whatever it was pointing at. So stay pointing at -4. here, it's pointing at x, so it should stay pointing at x. So this could be your answer, to just write the two inequalities separate. It's still a compound inequality if there's two inequalities. If you put them together, you have that. And then your graph should have at -4, right? X is greater than or equal to -4. By the way, when I'm graphing, I like looking at these. This one's more confusing to look at. So at -4, I should have a shaded circle, and if you don't know why it's shaded, you should ask a question or look at the notes from a couple days ago. So x is greater than or equal to -4. That greater than numbers are on the right. And then x is less than 6, so over at 6 I should have an open circle, and if you don't know why it's open, again, look back at the notes or ask in class. And numbers that are less than 6 are on the left side, so this makes sense, right? X has to be, or my unknown value has to be somewhere between -4 and 6, so that's what's graphed here. And next I have